Hello, welcome to the European Open Briefing for Tuesday, November the 21st. I'm Rafi Barajan, currency analyst at XM.com, and we're going to be having a look at the latest developments in the currency markets today. So we are seeing a bit of a rebound in the US dollar this morning following yesterday's dip. The euro, though, is heading back down again amid fears of prolonged uncertainty in Germany after the collapse of the coalition talks between Angela Merkel's party and two other parties following that September elections, which were inconclusive. The pound, though, isn't doing too badly. It's at a 2.5-week high against the dollar on hopes of a breakthrough in the Brexit negotiations, but the Aussie and the Kiwi continue to struggle as both currencies are under pressure on the declining yield differential between the US and also some domestic developments as well. But let's start with dollar yen and the dollar index. We can see the dollar yen did drop to a 1-month low yesterday, falling below the 112 level. The dollar index, we can see, was a bit more volatile yesterday, was mainly being affected by moves in the euro. Dollar yen is back above 112, currently around 112.50, and the dollar index is just below the 94 level. So we did see a bit of a recovery in risk appetite, though there is still some risk off in the markets. The yield on 2-year Treasury notes has hit a fresh 9-year high as expectations of a December rate hike strengthen further, and as that FOMC meeting in December gets closer as well. That is helping the dollar in the short term. The longer term focus, though, or the medium term focus rather, is still on the tax reforms. We're not expected to see any developments on that front until after the Thanksgiving break. The US markets will be closed on Thursday, and it's expected to be very thin trading this week. In the meantime, though, we are going to hear from Fed Chair Janet Yellen. She'll be speaking at New York University later today. Plus, tomorrow we have the FOMC minutes of the October-November policy meeting. Those are likely to signal a rate hike next month. Moving now on to the euro, we can see yesterday that dropped to a near 1-week low of 1.1720 against the dollar. We can see it did recover quickly, rising above the 1.18 handle before reversing lower again. Initially, the expectations were that what's happening in Germany wasn't likely to drag on for too long, but the German president has said that he wants all parties to continue their efforts in forming a government, but Angela Merkel has hinted that if talks continue to prove unsuccessful, she would rather hold fresh elections than to lead a minority government. So this could drag on for months, and given that Germany is Europe's strongest economy and most influential member of the EU, it's likely to weigh on the euro until we see who's going to be forming the next government. We heard from ECB President Mario Draghi yesterday at a hearing before European Parliament. He was overall, it did sound rather dovish. He's saying that underlying inflation pressures are still subdued as labor markets remain significant, and that inflation dynamics have yet to show convincing signs of a self-sustained upward trend. So pretty much in tune with recent comments suggesting that monetary accommodation in the Eurozone will remain loose for some time yet. But we do have the October policy meeting minutes being published on Thursday. That could be interesting, as it could reveal a split among governing council members as to the decision they took in October to cut back on stimulus. For now, though, the euro is rather subdued at the moment and struggling to hold near current levels around just below 1.1750. The pound, though, is benefiting from speculation that the UK government is about to up its offer in terms of the Brexit bill. The EU has given the UK a 2-week deadline to come up with a better offer. It is reported that Theresa May held a meeting with cabinet members to discuss raising the UK's offer from around 20 billion euros to around 40 billion euros. That if that succeeds in breaking the stalemate in the talks, and if we do see the talks move on to the phase 2, which includes transition deal and a post-Brexit trade deal with the EU, that could be a significant boost to sterling. At the moment, it's at a 2-week high of 1.3279. Also, tomorrow we have the UK budget coming up, which could be pro-growth if it's supportive of stronger growth in the UK. That could also help the sterling in the currency markets. And finally, looking at the Australian and New Zealand dollars, because both currencies are continuing to struggle against a US counterpart as the US continues to raise rates, and both the RBA and RBNZ look set to stay on hold for the foreseeable future. That is creating downside pressure on both currencies. The Aussie hit a fresh 5-month low of 0.7529 against the greenback, while the Kiwi is stuck near 17-month lows. It's currently hovering around the 0.68 handle. We also had the RBA meeting minutes published earlier today for the November policy meeting. It was a little bit more dovish than expected. The minutes said that there was considerable uncertainty around when and how quickly wage pressures might emerge, and about how much of this would add to inflation and pressure. That cast doubt as to how soon the RBA would be raising rates, with many analysts now forecasting RBA to stay on hold for all of 2018 and 2019. The Kiwi, meanwhile, we had some data out of New Zealand saying that dairy output rose by 3% in October. That could weigh on dairy prices, which have already fallen to a 7-month low. We have the global dairy auction coming up later today. If we do see another drop in dairy prices at the auction, we could see further falls in the Kiwi. Also coming up this week, we've got third quarter retail sales numbers out of New Zealand on Thursday, so that could also be another potential mover for the New Zealand dollar. Looking at today's economic calendar, we don't have too much major data. We've got UK government spending numbers, dairy auction, and existing home sales in the US, and wholesale trade figures out of Canada. We're also going to have the Bank of England Governor Mark Carney testifying before the Treasury Select Committee in Parliament for the November inflation report at 10 GMT. That's it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.